Like, I probably could have skipped over like the middle of the book and gotten the same result, that it's terrible. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess and today we will be discussing the book After by Anna Todd. After is actually from Wattpad for 2014. The book is actually a Harry Styles fanfic. Okay, which is awkward in itself. And After is the first book in a trilogy. She actually made a bunch of books with this and they're all on Wattpad and she decided to publish them. I'm not exactly sure how that works. Anyways, for some reason the world loved these books and I can't help but wonder why. Why the fuck did you like this book? Or all this book promotes at least are abusive relationships. And while some people are into the bad boy kind of thing, this one was just taken way too far. The characters were one-dimensional and there was no real plot. All that happened was Tessa going to parties, Hardin getting mad at her, she cries, he apologizes, they have a moment, and that's kind of the whole story. There is so much unnecessary drama throughout this story that I had actual anxiety reading this. I was like, oh, they're just gonna argue again and again. It's kind of like when you're a kid and you know that your parents are about to start fighting and you get this really anxious feeling because you just know that it's about to happen. Yeah, that's how I felt because that became the norm in this book. Now, there's nothing wrong with casual fighting, right? Every couple does this. But when you do it to the extreme, but when you do it so much that it's just your entire relationship, that even Tessa gets nervous over it, like she's like, oh, I don't want to provoke him. Oh, I don't want him to get upset. She shouldn't have to worry about these things, right? These are not things that she should have to worry about. She should be able to just speak her mind freely and not have to step on ice around him. But we'll get into all of that. Somehow it became a New York Times bestseller. It's Wattpad's most favorited series, I guess. It's pretty popular. So if you guys don't want any spoilers or anything, I'm gonna put a timestamp down in the description below so that you can watch it and not get spoiled at the end. Because I'm gonna kind of do like a rough rundown of the story and there's gonna be a lot of spoilers and I don't want to spoil you guys if you haven't read it, so you'll get my full opinion at the very end, like I said down the timestamp below. So let's get into it. So anyways, we're first introduced to Tessa Young, which is this young 18-year-old who is kind of a prude, prissy, and Tessa has always been in control of her life because that's how her mom acts as well. Her mom is in control of her and therefore she feels like she needs to be in control of everything else in her life. To be honest, her mom's a bitch and I have no quarrel saying that. She doesn't really feel like an actual character throughout the story. She just feels like an antagonist. She doesn't feel like an actual mom. She's just kind of there to add some story to the plot. She's just there to move the plot forward. She only shows up and causes conflict. She's never there, you know, as a casual character. She's only there to cause conflict. And it's so clear because she only shows up like 3 or 4 times and each time it causes like a major change in the plot. So that's all she is. I don't know, she's kind of useless otherwise. Anyway, so Tessa is dating this other prude, prissy guy named Noah. He seems nice enough. He wears cardigans, he wears loafers. He's chilling, but he's still in high school. So she's gonna go off to WCU, where her mom also went, and go to college and live in the dorms. Now, I don't know about you. I never lived in the dorms, but from the dorms I have been in, you know, you're college kids and you're freshmen and you're new and people are gonna be different than you. So they all go to the school, Tessa, the mom, and Noah, and they all go into her dorm room and they see a girl named Steph. Now, Steph is kind of this punk rock chick and she's really nice, don't get me wrong, but you know, she has all these rock posters up on her walls and everyone's like, freaking out, right? Like Tessa's mom is like, there's no way you can stay here. We're gonna move you to another room. And Tessa's like, no, like that's not gonna happen, mom. She's like, I'll just deal with it. Don't worry, it won't affect my studies. And then she ends up having an hour-long conversation about how she can't get affiliated with her roommate. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Oh, she's her roommate, like, I don't know. Anyway, so in comes Nate and Hardin. Now Hardin is the Harry Styles of the book, except he has a bunch of tattoos, lip piercings, you know, he has the works, right? He's the ultimate bad boy Harry Styles. And trust me, I'm also into the bad boy kind of thing. I like it. But this, I mean, Steph is kind of the opposite of Tessa. Like she's like totally party goer. She likes to go out a lot. She doesn't stay in the dorms a ton. She doesn't really study. Actually, we don't know what she does at all. We don't know what she's studying. We don't know what she does. She's just kind of there to invite Tess to parties because that's all she does. Like, she's there sometimes for Tess to talk to her about stuff, but she doesn't seem exactly useful at all. Again, these characters are very one-dimensional and they clearly have a purpose, which I can admire. Like, characters should be there for a purpose, but these characters are just so one-dimensional. We don't actually get to the heart of any of them. Anyway, so the next day, Tessa and Steph are in their dorm room and Hardin comes in and he invites them to a party. And Tessa's like, no way, I'm not going. Like, you know, she doesn't do that. But then he provokes her and he's like, well, I knew you wouldn't come anyway. And she's like, well, fuck you, never mind, I'm coming. So she gets all dressed up. She's basically wearing this church dress thing. She doesn't have any cool clothes at all. Like, she doesn't have anything to wear to a party. And she's like, all right, I'm gonna go in this. And Steph's like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, like, I'll be fine. Anyway, so she's at the party and she hates it. Everything goes wrong. Like, everything goes wrong. And she calls Noah and Noah kind of tells on Tessa. Like, he's like the tattletale. Like, he tells her mom and she's like disappointed in Tessa. And I'm like, what the fuck? Are you like a spy for her mom? Like, are you just as controlling? Because that is just fucking weird, dude. Anyways, even though Hardin is a complete asshole to Tessa the entire time, she's like, kind of want to get to know Hardin better. She's like so interested in this broken boy. And she kind of gets her wish. Like, they happen to be in the same Brit Lit class together because, I mean, ironically, he's from Europe. So I guess it makes sense. So Hardin invites her to another party. She's like, all right, I'll go. And then she kind of gets the idea that she kind of wants to hook up with Hardin. And she's like, this is so wrong, blah, blah, blah. Which it is wrong. She has a boyfriend, but she just won't break up with him. You're bored in your relationship. She's starting to realize that. But so she actually kisses Hardin. And, you know, she totally loves it. She's really into it. And, you know, she has this conflict inside her. She's like, but I'm dating this guy who really loves me. He'll probably take care of me, but he's also kind of abusive. You know, he calls her mom and he's kind of boring. I mean, I feel like with relationships like that, yes, they can be boring, but these are things that you need to just talk to your partner about. Maybe he wants more from her and he's afraid to do it. Maybe he's just boring because he thinks she's boring. I don't know. There's ways you can deal with these relationships. I mean, I've been in a relationship for 5.5 years and I feel like this could have been handled so much better, especially in the book and how it was written and how basically Anna Todd is kind of promoting the fact that sometimes cheating is good and it's not. Cheating is very serious and it's very sad. That was like a big thing that really turned me off from this book as well. You know, if you're gonna promote cheating, I mean, you're writing this book for young adults and then they're gonna think it's okay. And it's not okay. Anyway, so her and Hardin, you know, they have their fights and then he's like, all right, let's be friends. And she's like, fine, we can just be friends. And then they go to this lake and they jump in their underwear, Hardin, and then they get all roused up. And she's like, all right, I can't be friends with you. And then, you know, he gives her her first orgasm. Now, you might not think that's a big deal, but it is kind of. This girl's been sheltered her entire life. It's kind of important, right? And then, you know, she's kind of coming to the realization that she really needs to break up with Noah, but she wants to do it on her own terms. Anyways, her and Hardin go to her room and Noah just happens to be there. And he's like, what the fuck is going on? Blah, blah, blah. And Hardin's like, oh, you haven't told him. And then she's like freaking out because she wasn't ready for this conversation. And she can't believe that Hardin would have the audacity to tell him for her. He makes her tell him like what's been going on. And Noah is just absolutely heartbroken and he just walks out. This is another problem I have with Noah. He just doesn't fight for her at all. He's just like, all right, I'm out. See ya, I guess. Yeah, that relationship was really yeah. Anyway, so she kind of thinks her and Hardin are kind of a thing, but then Hardin's like, no, fuck you, like, I don't do relationships. So he, like, tells her to, like, go away, and Tessa goes and she begs for Noah back. Anyways, Noah's like, yeah, I guess I'll, like, think about it. I'll give you another chance. And honestly, like, this is all happening within, like, a 1-week period, so there's just so much going on. Anyways, Hardin just keeps on hanging around her and, you know, does it again, like, they make out, like they do stuff, and she's like, all right, it's time for me to just completely end things with Noah. But she never actually has like sits down and has a conversation with him. But instead, this time she finally dumps him and it's over. And so she's kind of determined to like make Hardin treat her better and turn Hardin into a better person. But he's really not having it. And Tessa's friends like kind of like the people in the group, they kind of warn her that he's not a good guy and that she shouldn't really try with him. And she's like, no, I'm different. I'm gonna change him. Anyway, so they're kind of fighting again, and Hardin goes to this party and she decides to go as well, and she finds Molly, a girl, on his lap. Now, Holly is an absolute bitch, but she's an honest bitch. She was at the previous party as well, and they had hooked up before, her and Hardin. So when Tessa sees them, she gets really, really upset. And, you know, she actually meets this boy named Zed. Now, Zed is the good bad guy that I rooted for, because Zed is actually a good guy. Like, he genuinely, like, he treats her nice, he takes her out on a date, like, he asks for permission for things, and he never yells at her, and he's actually just a nice bad guy. Like, this is like the guy I could have rooted for. This is the guy that could have made me like the book after. But instead we got Hardin. She's so hurt over her being with Molly, and she's like, okay, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm done trying to like be with you. I'm done with your games. And I'm rooting for her. I'm like, yes, girl, get the fuck out. Let's see some you and Zed action. Like, I am totally into Zed. And like, while she's running out of the party, you know, Landon, her friend, comes to pick her up, and Hardin just like yells out, I love you, Tessa. Now, this seemed bogus to me at the beginning, and it ended up being bogus, but that's a whole other issue. So he tells her that he loves her, and she's like, fuck you, like, I don't believe it. And I'm rooting for her. I'm like, yes, he's so bullshitting you. But then she like thinks it over, and she's like, oh, I love him too. Let's figure out if he actually loves me. But then he's like, no, of course I don't love you. Like, she's like heartbroken again. And I'm just like, why do you keep putting yourself in this situation? Why are books like this made? Why do they romanticize abusive relationships? I don't understand it, and I never will. Anyways, the cycle just kind of repeats so the cycle kind of just keeps on repeating itself. Like, one day he'll say like he really loves her, and the next, you know, they're fighting, or the next they're like making out. Like, it's just a whole thing. They meet his parents, and he gets all upset over that. But like, slowly he starts to kind of come undone a little bit, and we kind of see another side of him that I didn't expect that we would see. And I do like that Anna Todd brought out some other characteristics of him, and you know, it kind of explains why he's abusive. You know, his dad was an alcoholic when he was young, and you know, now he's upset at his dad because he missed out on a lot of his childhood, and he, like, you know, him and his mom divorced, and now his dad is getting married to another woman, and the woman also happens to be Landon's mother, and Landon is the friend of Tessa. And so that's, you know, they kind of interconnect that way, and I'm like, oh, that's ironic. So it's kind of nice to like kind of see more of the history of Hardin. And apparently he's never said that he loves anyone, even though that doesn't make sense to me, because, you know, he really cares about his actual mom that's all the way back in Europe. But I guess he doesn't say it to her either. So saying it to Tessa is actually a pretty big deal. Tessa starts working at a publishing firm, and she meets this guy named Thomas, who's just friendly. But Hardin's like, no, fuck you. You're gonna actually steal her away, even though he wasn't even approaching her or hitting on her, really. Red flag. So he's like, you know what? Like, I want to like be with you, Tessa. And then they have sex together, and she loses her virginity to Hardin. And then literally like a couple days later, he's like, I want to get an apartment with you. Like, I want to move in with you. And this is brought on because Tessa's mom had just went into her dorm, and, you know, they had a big confrontation where Tessa's mom says that she will not fund her dorms anymore if she is with Hardin. And basically she's like, fuck you, I can kind of do whatever I want. I'm kind of an adult now, I guess. And she's like, you know, I can make decisions for myself. And the mom's like, if you're with him, you know, I'm not gonna pay for your stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, all right, fine, whatever. So Tessa's freaking out about this, and Hardin's like, well, just move in with me. Let's get an apartment together. And then she's like, isn't this kind of fast? And I'm like, yes, it is really fast. You should really listen to your gut instincts, girl. You know, and she does listen to them for a little bit, but then, you know, the pressure of not having somewhere to stay, and then also the pressure from Hardin kind of convinces her to move in with him. So anyways, Hardin actually picks out this apartment, and she goes to see it, and of course it's like this magical apartment, and apparently has like a large like large shelvings. It's literally perfect. They're college kids. Why can't I get something like that? I have a small ass bookshelf. Look at it. It's tiny. I can't afford something more. This guy's in college. He's a freshman, even though his dad's rich. But like, he's like, oh, I use my own money. You're literally like in college. Like, how are you making all of this money? All the college kids I know have loans. So this is just this just baffles me. Anyway, so like I said, she doesn't know how to say no to him. She moves in with him into this apartment that's actually like really close to her firm. It's really convenient, weirdly convenient. Anyways, Tessa actually starts to get the idea that Hardin is like totally unstable. And I'm like, wait, like, how did all of these other signs not show up to you? You literally talk about them throughout the book. You're like, oh, he's always angry. Oh, he's always like this. And then she's just now starting to realize that he's totally unstable. Hello? What? Anyways, Hardin kind of becomes really aggressive for some reason. And he just starts beating up people for no reason. Like, he beats up Zed. He beats up random kids like at parties and shit. And it's like a whole thing, and she's really confused. And Tessa realizes that he's actually suffering from PTSD because of his history with his dad, and so he has these nightmares at night. And these nightmares are really the only thing that connect them, if you think about it. Because every time they argue, they have a fight, they sleep other places, she just hears him screaming at night, like in his sleep. And that's basically what connects them. How is it that a guy's nightmares are the only reason that you stay with him or that you sleep with him? Like, and so Tessa feels like she needs to fix Hardin, so she stays with him. They're in the apartment, but then things start to get a little bit fishy. Anyway, so she's discovering like texts on his phone that seem a little bit weird, and he's going out at night and he's not telling her where he's going. And not that he has to tell her everything, but they are living together now. And when you're living together and you're boyfriend, girlfriend, it's kind of, you get worried if someone doesn't come home at night. I know, like, sometimes my boyfriend, he'd come home late from work and I would get a little bit nervous because, I live in Chicago, right? So you don't know what's going on. So if you're gonna be late or if you're not gonna show up that night, at least shoot me a text, right? At least say, hey, I'm not gonna be home tonight. That would be convenient. But instead, he just goes and he returns drunk, and she gets very upset at him, and they have this overall giant fight. Anyway, so she decides to go to this restaurant because she's looking for Steph, right? She wants to know where Hardin's been because he's not opening up to her, and she thinks that Steph is still her friend. Now she goes there and she sits down with Steph, and they're ordering food and stuff when Hardin, Molly, and like a couple others show up. And then she kind of drops the bomb. She's like, oh yeah, we're living together, and everyone is shocked, right? No one expected them to be living together because apparently this was all a big prank. So basically, at a truth or dare game one night at the party, someone, I forget who dared him, but someone dared him to make Tessa fall in love with her. So he goes through with it, right? Reading this, I'm just like, my God, dude. Anyways, the dare was that, he would get her virginity, make her fall in love with him, something like that. That's fucked up, dude. Like, Hardin, how are you gonna make a bet that like affects this whole girl's life? Like, that is just the most sick, depressing thing ever. Like, we all knew that Hardin was like a bad guy from like the beginning. He made it very clear that he was not like a good person, really. But like making a bet to like make this girl lose her virginity to him. And then he shows his friends all the things. Like, he shows the bloody sheets from when they had sex for the first time. He shows them the used condom. Like, he shows them all these things. He tells them everything. So basically, his friends and her friends all know everything that's going on with them. And Steph doesn't even have the audacity to tell her what's going on. She's like, oh, I was gonna tell you, but bitch, you didn't. It's so sad. It's so fucked up. Anyways, Hardin seems like he seems very upset about this. And he basically gets on his knees and he's starting to like beg her, because at this point, I'm pretty sure he has actually fallen in love with her. And it's a little bit weird, right? At first he was just doing all of this for a bet, but then he actually falls in love with her. But it was for the totally wrong reasons. Why do people like this book? I don't understand. Anyway, so she runs out of the cafe and she's obviously distressed and really upset because, first of all the people she considered kind of her friends all knew about this. So were they really her friends in the first place? No, they were kind of assholes. And that kind of hurts because it's kind of made kind of clear that she's never really had friends before because she's been so focused on school and jobs and just life in general. So the fact that some of her first friends betray her like this is really fucking sad. Second of all, this guy took her virginity, and apparently it was based on a truth or dare game. So I just don't get it, right? So basically she leaves the cafe and she's walking out and she's like, she's like wanting to drive home. And Zed comes out, you know, he's still beaten up because Hardin beat him up before. And he's like, here, I'm gonna drive you home. You can't drive home. And she's like, I don't really want to talk to you, because he knew about it as well. And the book actually ends in a cliffhanger and she's like, tell me everything. You know, tell me everything that you know, actually, because while she doesn't like Zed, like she doesn't like any of them anymore, really, you know, she wants to know exactly what happened. I hate cliffhangers, dude. I hate them so much, because if I don't like the book, but if there's a cliffhanger, that means I feel compelled to read the next book because I want to know how it all started too. I want to know everything that happened. My cat's playing with the toy, so please ignore the bell in the background. All right, so for the non-spoiler review, basically, this book is about a broken, abusive boy named Hardin and control freak, prissy girl named Tessa, and neither of them are good for each other. But she likes the bad boy thing, and basically, he's a fucking jerk. I don't know. I do not recommend reading this book. I would give this book a 1 out of 5 stars. If you like abusive relationships, if you like having anxiety reading a book, then I guess read this book. But yeah, every single character in this book, they're one-dimensional. It's just the same plot for like 300 pages, dude. Like, I probably could have skipped over like the middle of the book and gotten the same result. That it's terrible. For the most part, the grammar, the pacing, plot overall, I mean, it's a Wattpad book. I don't know what I expected, but there are so many grammatical issues in this book. I, as an editor, wanted to scream from the very beginning. They seem to be worse at the beginning, but as like the story went on, maybe her writing got better and she just never got an editor for the beginning. But the beginning just like drove me absolutely insane. Too many run-on sentences, all of that stuff. I don't know really what the author was thinking when writing this. I really don't get it, but maybe more things will be revealed as I read the series, because unfortunately I do plan to read the series. I don't know. I just think that this entire book promotes unhealthy relationships, whether they are friendships or romantic. I don't know. It just promotes unhealthy relationships overall. And like I said before, I don't recommend this book, but I'm gonna keep reading the series because I'm gonna tell you guys all about it. If you guys like the content today, leave a like and subscribe down below. I make videos every Tuesday and Friday and sprinkle some in between those days if I have time. And if you guys want to know more about my current projects and stuff, I also have social links that I'll link down below as well. So thank you guys for watching and have a great day.